$1,500. That's the difference between the Sony ZV-E10 and the Sony ZV-E1. But most people are not really willing to make that jump. But I want to cover in this video just a couple points of why I don't think the $1,500 difference is that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things, because if you're already making that jump to something else or similar, you're going to spend at least $1,000 to $1,500 anyway. But let's get into it. Whether you're switching brands or if you are staying with Sony and you're staying within that ecosystem, or if you're already with Canon and you're staying, like, either way, you're making $1,000 to a $1,500 difference between lens purchases, the camera body price by itself, whatever camera that is, in this case, the ZV-E1, and then accessories and the stuff that you would need in order to fit. And it could be as simple as getting step up or step down rings to fit for your lens filters, or upgrading your filters if they're too small and maybe not like a 67 or 70 plus standard filter thread on the lens. So some way or another, you're going to be spending that money, and a lot of it does come from making those investments in the lenses when you're making the jump. So regardless, like, you're going to spend easy $1,000 to $1,500. Now you'll get some of that back if you trade in your camera gear, but if you're trying to keep it and like make that jump, it doesn't matter if you're going with the Panasonic S5 Mark II, you're going with like the Canon R7, even R10 or R8, or if you're going to the Sony ZV-E1 or the Sony FX30. Either way, no matter what camera you're looking at, with a lens, you're still going to be making that $1,000 to $1,500 difference. That's why I said that gap is actually much smaller than most people think. So if you're a ZV-E10 user, here's why I think you actually probably should get this camera. And again, asterisk next to when they fix the overheating. I'm fine with making this investment because I know that Sony has already come from underneath that before. Nobody's looking to get stuck with that again. So I think that summer firmware update is not just to add more features, it's to go ahead and make the adjustments with the overheating. They're used to dealing with this in other cameras, so they know how to handle it. So I'm leaning in with the trust that it's going to be fixed and it's not that big of a deal. But if you are using something that is like a sub $1,000 camera, maybe even like $1,200 or $1,300, save the FX30 because that's a different beast. It wasn't out then. But any camera has some kind of limitations, and the number one thing is usually gimbals needing stability, reliable stability when you're doing certain shots. Well, with the ZV-E1, you don't have to worry about having to get a gimbal, and having that cut down in the time, the setup, having the extra weight that you're carrying around. I literally just switched my bag for traveling because the other one was a pound heavier. Nothing in it, just the bag. So when you look at how much you're actually saving, you're saving quite a bit when you look at not having to carry around a gimbal. Now granted, there are some shots that you get like the infinity zoom or the cyclone or whatever it's called, those kind of unique shots. Yeah, you probably will still need a gimbal for it, or certain dolly-like shots, but just for the basic things like maybe you're panning on an image, getting some B-roll of yourself at an event, or handing this off to somebody, having good native catalyst browse like stabilization in the camera natively, again, is always a big winner. Now, this third reason is a big thing for me. No second shooters needed. Meaning, if you have somebody, it could be a friend, a family, most people take their spouses or you can take your kids and get them to help get those side angle shots. So if it was me recording this video right now, I could have a friend off to the side recording, maybe like on their phone or on another camera, getting some different B-roll shots, or you're setting up for simple stuff like that. Well, now you don't need to. So it limits those micro moments where you are wanting to have a second shooter, but you don't actually need one with the follow focus or getting somebody to pan around. And this seems kind of gimmicky on the outside, and I've heard people talk about it from that perspective. But here's why I don't share that opinion. Because when you are in a large enough frame or something that's wide, if I got up, walked over here to pick up to show you guys a specific plant and go through all the different things, if that's what my channel was about, then that camera can follow me. It can stay right here and the autofocus would follow me. Little stuff like that, it speeds up the workflow and the execution time on just getting the shots and not having to pick it up, go over here, change. The natural lighting changes a bit when you change environments or change the angles, and just really think about all those little different nuances. I don't have to do that. I could just get up and have the AI follow me. Little stuff like that, big time savers, and time is everything when it comes to making content as an entrepreneur. Next reason is a good reason to get it is the A7S III like qualities in the sensor. Now, if the FX3 is a Netflix approved sensor, which is not just having a quote unquote cinematic look, I'm not talking about the black bars effect or the faux black bars that they add on there, but actual cinema style quality, that sensor that you would save like excess of $3,500 plus. Some people just for like an A7S Mark III and one lens easily at $5,000 easily. FX3 again a little bit more, but you can have all of that in a $2,000 camera, $2,200 camera essentially. Yes, that's an instant yes. It's a no-brainer on stuff like that. So again, that's a good reason to get it. But the next reason I would say if you are going to wait would be the reliability. Getting a camera right out the box, essentially with something like this, it makes sense to wait, because if you are doing pro work, which is like so many comments from people complaining about like I would never use this professionally, and then some saying like I can't wait to get it to use it for my professional work. But it is a different standard when you want to use something for your pro work and know that you got it and you don't have reliability issues or concerns and the environment that you're recording in. Like I want cameras that I don't have to think about where I'm recording, how I'm recording, and how I'm using it, how it's going to behave or perform or whatever the case is. So yeah, it makes sense to get something maybe like an FX30 or go ahead and get that FX3, A7S Mark III or A7R Mark V if that makes sense to what you're doing. For me, it doesn't. I'm doing stuff like this. I'm traveling. It's not that big of a deal. If like I'm doing like these recordings, what maximum could be a 12-20 minute file, or I'm doing a podcast, it's not that big of a deal. I don't use 4K 60 like that anyway, so those caps wouldn't bother me. But if you are doing something where like it really matters, like you know that bride is never coming back down that aisle again, you can't recapture that shot, yeah, it makes sense to get something with more stability. So that argument again for a pro versus whomever, again, I'm speaking to content creating entrepreneurs, so it depends on the kind of work you're doing. But I would say for now, until it's resolved, that would be a reason to wait until it is fully resolved, and maybe go ahead and get something that is bulletproof like an FX3 or like a Sony A7S Mark III that you don't have issues with. Or again, like something else. Some people are saying like the Panasonic S5 Mark II, just not playing the autofocus games with Panasonic, and I'm beyond switching brands. That's for me, but like I said, a good reason to wait is the reliability right now. So this is a big reason why I think if you are a ZV-E10 user, why you should wait is because we are perfectly primed and in position for a bee's knees Hall of Fame, magic to the hill chocks, white chocolate happening camera, just because the FX30 exists. The A6600 long in the tooth, A6400 long in the tooth, and those sensors, I think we now need to be moving away from that 24 megapixel sensor that we've seen in those older cameras that have an issue with rolling shutter. I don't have any issues with the overheating. I've ran those for ridiculous days on end and never turning them off just to push it, and I never had any issues. So again, it depends on your use case, but we're perfectly positioned. That FX30 sensor has to go in some other Sony camera, and it only makes sense to put it into, some people are saying like a ZV-E10 Mark II. I would love to be wrong, but I don't think we're going to get a ZV-E10 Mark II so soon. What I do believe we'll have is an A6600 replacement, which we absolutely need because everybody wants that hybrid style body. I like the ZV-E10 body design. I actually like it a whole lot more for my use case than I did my A6600 type style body. But like a rangefinder, like an A7C style goodness in that body design, hell, they can keep that same shell and do that for an A6600 plus whatever Mark II, the fabled camera. But I think that would be like probably the best reason why to wait, because most of the time, by the time people get the money up for the lenses and stuff like that, if money's not a problem, then you can go ahead and get them all in one day. But we're perfectly positioned if you want to stay with APS-C. You can grab the FX30. It is an incredible camera, but there has to be something else that uses that sensor. I cannot see the FX30 being the only camera that uses that sensor. It's not going to go in any other Sony camera that they don't do that. I've not seen where only one sensor stays in that one solo camera and it's not shared across somewhere else in the Sony lineup. So I think we would be very well positioned to get that into. Again, I would love to see it. I just don't have the hope that is going to come. A ZV-E10 Mark II that has the sensor probably be crippled to some extent. I do believe we'll see something that should be within that $1,200 to $1,300 price range, similar to where we saw the A7C, maybe a little bit cheaper, and the A6600, and going ahead and getting something that is, again, the bee's knees Hall of Fame APS-C. That would be probably the best reason why not to get the ZV-E1 yet, or at least just wait and see what happens and then make a decision between the two. For me, any camera that I would buy at this point would have to be something that I know I want to use as my daily driver for the next 1 to 2 years. The ZV-E10 is always going to have a place in the office and in my body of work because it's just a really good camera that for the price point punches above its weight class. And it's just a good little camera. Like, I love it. I'm using it right now. But the ZV-E1 is just like, those features again have to go in some other camera. So I know it's going to be some other APS-C sensor cameras that may have that in it, but it's got to be also like the A7C, have to have a big brother, big sister, maybe a Mark II would be really dope to see. But the ZV-E1 pretty much is already that. So that's what I'm getting. I'm making that switch finally to full frame. They've lured me over to the dark side, but I'm still hoping out that the ZV-E10 or some big brother mystery camera is coming down the pipeline and it's going to use that FX30 sensor. So I'm curious, let me know, which one would you get? Would you get an APS-C high-end camera that again is slightly below the FX30, so not that cinema design style or what have you, but something closer to a ZV-E1 body design? Could be the exact same thing, but it's APS-C. Or would you go ahead and get the ZV-E1? Or are you going someplace else? I'm curious. Let me know you guys' thoughts. But with that, guys, a little bit of passion. I'll see you on the next episode here on the channel. Peace. Are you an entrepreneur struggling to get your brand noticed through video content? Look no further. The One Right Video is the ultimate guide to creating videos that will amplify your brand and grow your business. It's jam-packed with practical tips and strategies to help entrepreneurs just like you succeed in video content creation. Don't let your competition get ahead. Mark your calendar for March 1st and be among the first to get your hands on a copy of the One Right Video. Go to onerightvideo.com.